welcome to this week's episode of the Printing Show. My name is Dafi Kühne, and every week my mailbox is filled with postcards and letters from people asking things about my posters. So let's see what we have here. From Mr. David S. from Richmond, Virginia. Dear Dafi, how do you make your weird gradients on your posters? Well, Mr. Shields, I'll show you. So actually there are 3 ways for making gradients, and I'm going to show you all 3 of them. For the first one we need a form and 2 different colors on the rollers. So you might say, hey Dafi, come on, there's nothing special about this. No black magic, nothing. True, this is just a traditional split fountain. But let me show you the second way of making a gradient. So with the first way of making a gradient, we had 100% of saturation on one side, on the blue side, and we had 100% of saturation on the red side. With the second way of making a gradient, we only have 100% saturation on one side, but 0 saturation on the other side. So I'm inking up the press just on one side with what I think is 100% saturation, and then I fade it out towards the other side. So with this gradient, I have 100% of blue ink up here and 0 ink down here. And that's how I've printed the POW poster in several runs. And that's how I've printed the light at the end of the tunnel poster. So for the third technique, we use 2 blocks that are a tiny bit below type height. Now with the blocks in place, we start up the press again. So if I'm inking up the blocks right now, they're a little too low. They will not pick up any ink. To give you the exact numbers, I am below type height by 0.3 millimeters, around 3 sheets of photocopier paper in thickness. So if I would bump up these blocks by 3 sheets of photocopier paper, they would be perfectly type height right now. So what I'm doing right now, I bump up the blocks unevenly. The first sheet, I make it about 3/4 of the block, the second about half, and the last is about 1/4. And you can see this profile going from 0 to plus 0.3 millimeters. And I do the same on the other block. What we have now is 2 blocks that are below type height on this side and on type height on that side, below type height on this side and on type height on that side. Let's see what it looks like when we print that. And there we have our gradients. Depending on the quality of the paper that we print on, these textures come out completely different. Also, we can change the length of our gradients by changing the amount of packing that we put underneath the blocks. The interesting point about the third technique is that we can make the gradients in any direction. I can make them from left to right, but I can also make them from top to bottom. While with the first and the second technique, I can only make them from left to right because the rollers mix the ink like this, never like this. So, David S. from Richmond, I hope this answers your question. And if you've got any more questions, send me a letter. Ist gut gewesen, oder nicht gut?